All right, thank you. That's all the numbers I have on my list. Is there anybody out there that has not spoken already that would like to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Steve Milliman.
Okay.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, Steve.
I don't actually have Steve's address.
Steve, I just need your name and, well, obviously name, but the address as well.
Yes, 706 North First. I represent several adjoining neighbors to this project or this proposed project. I think you've heard compelling testimony as to the fact that this project will not be harmonious or appropriate, and it will change the essential nature of the character of the neighborhood. I want to address a point that I find very troubling and very inconsistent with my 40 plus years of presenting land use applications. The very first standard that you must overcome to consider this application is that this use is a conditional use authorized in the zone. It is not. We don't have a county type ordinance where you can propose anything and then we have a free-for-all over whether it's compatible, and if you get your foot in the door, then the next guy behind you can do the same thing. We have an ordinance that actually calls out permitted uses, administratively approvable uses, and conditional uses. And an ordinance that says where you don't have an A for administrative or a C for conditional or a P for permitted, and I quote, the use is not permitted. This is table 3.3.02. This use is a commercial use proposed in a residential neighborhood. It is not a permitted use under table 3.3.02. It is not an administratively approvable use. It is not a conditional use. You must understand, and I'm not a big one for throwing the term precedent around, but the precedent of what you are being asked to do, if you do it, is I can bring you any use whatsoever, and ask for a conditional use in a residential neighborhood. That essentially renders our ordinance and the basic structure of our ordinance meaningless. Our ordinance is based on citizens being able to look at what uses would be allowed in their neighborhood and rely on it. If I can bring you any use and ask for a conditional use, then we have essentially rendered our ordinance meaningless, and we have entered the world of anything goes and anybody has a right to argue compatibility. That is the very first standard under your CUP. I know that staff has referenced a sentence above that says use is not identified, have to be considered as a conditional use. But below that is the language that says when you don't have a P, you don't have an A, and you don't have a C, the use is not permitted. And I would argue the more restrictive applies. And from a policy point of view, do you really want to go there? Do you want to go to where we can now start proposing any uses whatsoever, whether they're listed in your ordinance, our ordinance, and in the table for that zone? There's no dispute that's what we have here. We have a commercial use that is not in table 3.302 that you are being asked to grant a conditional use permit for. And I would strongly urge you to reject that invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Couldn't get any closer to 3 minutes. All right, is there anyone else out there that would like to speak that has not spoken already? Going once, going twice. All right, we will close the public hearing. And we'll give the applicants, if you would like to rebut anything, you mentioned you may have something to say. No, good.
Yeah, the very first speaker made pretty much a direct personal insulting comment about character. And to be honest, the current driveway proposal has been postponed to closure with the Public Works Department until spring. So everything that he said is incorrect.
We feel like there's been a lot of exaggerations tonight, and that's very disappointing. We're guilty before had a chance to prove our innocence. I feel like we could absolutely deliver on everything that we promised in the application, and that the commission and the city has at their disposal the option to revoke a permit if it is not executed properly. And I think that is one of the wonderful things. I mean, I know that if I don't deliver the way we have promised in this proposal, that you have every right to take it away, and I would encourage that if I did not, if we did not deliver on this. So we also feel, unfortunately, that there were I saw a lot of things on Facebook that were unfortunate for us, because they were showing a big, huge assembly venue in pictures, and talking about and escalating all these issues around drunk people and everything else. And the intention is that this isn't an event venue. It is, the request is to be able to have periodic events that are relatively moderate in size for the people that are actually renting the properties from us. And then also provide something that is moderately priced for local people who would like to have a private venue to be able to use, because we expect that there will be locals that will want to use this as well. It's not just going to be all transient people. So we respectfully ask you to consider not the extremes here, but the general intent and desire, and our desire to actually make good for this neighborhood and do the right thing for them. And we have no problem with making adjustments on things to make this work. So when we don't go over a moderate size group coming in, and the only time you would actually have these events would be periodically in the summer, and it gets dark at 10 and the thing would be basically be shut down by then. So there's a lot of things that were said tonight that actually would probably never come to pass. So I hope that you'll consider not only the truthfulness in what we've provided here in our intent in your decision. So I thank you.
Great, thank you.
Just to reiterate, the final point is that this is for the use of current guests. This is not a one-day rentable facility.
It's not.
It's not a wedding venue. It is if we have people who are staying at the property for an extended period of time and they want to have a gathering, they can. This is not an event center. It's been completely blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
That was never our intent.
And I think in all the verbiage that you'll see up here, it's not a center. It's never been indicated to be a center, so to speak. It's looking to be able to have more people come than what are actually staying at the property for a period of time during the day, or an evening or something like that.
Typically afternoon.
Yeah, it is not. We've never had an intention to blow this out, and unfortunately, media has done that for it. So I don't know what to do besides be as honest as I can.
Okay.
And
all right, great, thank you. All right. Well, we've had moments. Brian, do you have anything you want to add? Clarification from anything?
Yeah, I'll try and run through a list of things that were brought up a little bit. So the driveway permit, if you guys wish to request additional inspections and or closures of the existing driveway and the drainage pipe and things like that, feel free to do that. Mr. Milliman's comment regarding the code language, 3.302A specifically states all uses not listed in table 3.302 of this section require review by the commission and a conditional use permit. The section where he says where no symbols or a dash appears, the use is not permitted is specifically referring to items in the table 3.302, such as, just reading off here, amusement or recreation facilities indoor only. Everything else is a conditional use, things that are not listed. That is intentional, that is by design. We are not seeing the future. We try our best to manage things as they come up, but the world changes pretty quickly, and we like to have some foresight or be able to have some say in things that we are not seeing quickly. The parking issues, you get what you provide for. If there's been a lot of testimony regarding drunk driving and inebriation and things like that, I am not inclined to require additional parking for uses that is a concern. We have the authority through the conditional use permit to prohibit parking on Rio Vista, and we can revoke the conditional use permit if they fail to do that. If the occupancy includes staff and B&B guests, that is not clear in how I wrote the condition. If you guys wish to modify that, go ahead. There was somebody that was concerned about the owners flipping the property with once they get the conditional use permit. I have to take some blame for this. I suggested to the applicants that they address what should happen should they sell the property, because we can promise all day long that they're going to manage things this, that, blah, blah, blah. If they should sell it, we no longer have that relationship with the owner, and it may go to somebody who is less scrupulous. So we want as many conditions of approval as we can in the conditional use permit to prevent future owners from behaving badly. Regarding noise, if you guys wish to put a condition of approval in there regarding that, I recommend something to the effect of limited amplification on music or no amplification on music. I've seen decibel limits put on conditional use permits in the past. That is pretty difficult to enforce. Everybody's got a cell phone in their pocket. They can send me pictures of parking issues and bad behavior and things like that. Nobody has a decibel meter in their pocket.
Don't have that out.
Traffic concerns, if you guys wish to impose a requirement for a traffic impact study prior to scheduling this for the city council's approval, that may be prudent. Also, if you guys wish to put a condition that all events shall be associated with the B&B and not standalone wedding or events, that may also be a wise decision.
I got a question.
I'm sorry, we can't right now. The public comments closed, so I'm sorry.
Well, it seems like he's advocating for the approval here and how to go by.
Sorry, the public comment is,
That have been presented. That
we're
are-
deliberating, the public, I'm sorry, but we're deliberating, the public comment has been closed, so we really can't address that. So this is for the commission to,
He's supposed to be a representative of the community. And he's
sorry, sir, this is not for you to talk right now. We're trying to deliberate and make a decision regarding what we have to deal with. You can talk later about that, but not at this point. Oh, okay, Brian, do you have more?
No, but if it comes across that I'm appearing to advocate for the applicant, I apologize. I wrote a staff report where I recommended approval with the conditions therein. Based on testimony, I recommended a few additional to you guys. If I did not feel confident in approving it, I would not be advocating for that position.
All right. Well,
We also have Bill Pumpkin here if you have any questions.
all right, Bill, for our new members, commissioners, we do have our attorney online, Bill Punkany. Bill, I don't know if there's anything you have to say right now, or just waiting for any of our questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've just been waiting for questions to come in. I do want to note that I think that staff's interpretation of 3.3.02A with regard to what we do with uses that are not on that permitted table was accurate. I think all uses not listed in the table 3.3.202 of this section are allowed, but just with a conditional use permit. So I just wanted to put that out there. Otherwise, I'm here and listening. And if you have questions, please let me have them.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, commissioners, thoughts? Go to each one of you individually, or just we can talk together. Any questions? There's lots of information here.
Well, this is not an easy decision, obviously. We're balancing the interests of a neighborhood that has made very clear what they view of themselves as a neighborhood versus an individual's right to control how they use their land. And, you know, thinking of it as zoned R1, I mean, it makes it pretty clear to me what the intent originally of that zoning was. But then I go back to, is there a way this can be done where the individual can use their land in the way that they see fit? You know, in a way that doesn't interfere with the neighbors. And I can definitely see both sides. I've owned a vacation rental, I've been in a vacation rental, I've lived next to a vacation rental, and all of the things that all the neighbors are talking about are potential, you know, like that. But on the flip side, you know, is there a way that the owners can do this in such a way that can work for people? And just off the cuff, my inclination, I don't know if we can give, you know, a temporary conditional use permit or like a trial period conditional use permit, you know, like, you know, give it a shot, see if it works for, you know, one summer and then revoke it. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
Well, and we've had difficult decisions before, and we've kicked it down the road several times, you know, to the following month and got more information. So that's an option. We could continue it or whatever the right term is. The one thing that I found that I think worked the best was, you know, we do have these 12 conditions. And if any one of them is deemed not being met by the commission, then that's all it takes is one, is my understanding. And, but we need to make sure that we really feel that it isn't being met, you know, and I know that's hard too, because there's some gray areas, but it's helped in the past for us to get past something that it's a difficult decision. You said it very well. But other than that, I don't know what to say.
Well, this is my first meeting, so you couldn't have given me a tougher decision to be involved with. I really appreciate all you people back there. You know, but I think of it as a conditional use permit, and a permit is something that's awarded to you and can be taken away. And a lot of good testimony, a lot of good problems, not good problems, but a lot of problems that both sides have to contend with. And I kind of look at it as you know, maybe we're not putting as much teeth into this conditional use permit as we possibly could. If violations if there are violations, it could be taken away, and maybe some more structure along the lines of this is what's going to happen and at this particular time, and the size of the bus turnaround or whatever condition that we're putting on the applicant to make this thing happen is a lot stronger, is a lot more, you know, difficult to hang on to, because I think it's going to show a lot of character with the people that have are applying for this. Are they able to keep the promises that they're making? I mean, it's not much of an answer for anything, but this is a tough deal. So that's my thoughts on it right off the top. How about you, Robert?
Well, Christine, how about?
Well, a couple things I guess are coming to mind. I can't help but notice that the public comment was overwhelmingly felt that this use is not appropriate in that area. There was only the one person who is involved in the project that had testimony in favor of the project. So that is rolling around in my head. The other thing, what was it I was just thinking of when you asked me that? I was wondering about. Well, it'll come back to me in a minute, I'm sure, before we're done with our discussion.
Ryan, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I got a couple things to kind of point out. I guess from my perspective, I kind of agree with a lot of the testimony that we heard tonight. And, I'm concerned about traffic through residential area. I'm concerned about the noise, and I'm concerned about the parking like many folks. I certainly recognize the fact that we can, introduce those into the conditions of approval and try to mitigate any problems that might occur from those things. One question I guess I have, and I'm not sure if we can answer this, maybe Brian can, but in the past, how easy is it to revoke these conditions, these conditional use permits? Does that actually happen? And I guess, that'd be a question that I'd have for you.
Chairman Kinzer, yeah. I've never actually had to do it. Typically, the threat is sufficient to get compliance. But yeah, if we should have to do it, it would be a code enforcement matter that it takes a little bit of doing, but it is achievable. There's a public hearing process and things like that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely seems to me that it's probably fairly difficult to revoke these things. And from my standpoint, thinking about it, living in this community for a long time, I don't think the question is, do we need this sort of a service? I think we do, but do we need it in a residential area? And I'm having a hard time seeing past that.
Yeah, I'd say, if we look at the 12 conditions, if you look at number 3 and number 12, it doesn't meet, in my book, the request does not meet those 2 conditions.
Yeah, and this Commissioner Lyons said, behalf of the people that are listening online that may not have this in front of them, I was looking at the same ones in addition to item number 11, but just so everybody out there can hear, item number 3 under the conditions that must be or cannot be, it has to apply to these. But number 3, be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the existing and likely character of the neighborhood, and such will not be change the essential character of the surrounding area. Now, when you talk about neighborhood, yes, there is industrial loop, but that is industrial loop. The neighborhood is Rio Vista. So I think you want to kind of keep that in mind. The neighborhood, the subdivision is in Rio Vista. The likely character of the neighborhood is residential. The owner of the lot next door, I don't think they've said anything, but that would really affect that residential, that potentially a certain amount. And if we go to number 11, on the site of being sufficient to accommodate the proposed use, yards, open spaces, snow storage, walls, fence, parking areas, loading zone. Now, the size is, I believe, there. However, I feel the parking is definitely not adequate, because I agree that most people going to wedding are gonna drive in a car. You may have 4 or 5 in a van or somebody together, but most likely you're gonna have multiple cars. So I don't know if that's a factor of reduced in size, but I mean, you're just gonna have it. And sometimes people, you don't know how many's gonna show up at a wedding certain times. So I don't see the parking for that amount of people. But then as Commissioner Tunnell said, is, you know, number 12, have minimal negative economic impact on the neighborhood or surrounding community. It's a tricky one to prove negative economic impact. Basically, we'd be looking at property values.
What is minimal, yeah.
And what is that? There's no set number there, but it could be definitely a factor. To me, I think item number 3 is harmonious with the character of the neighborhood and likely character of the neighborhood. Kind of stands out the most. And I mean, the bed and breakfast I think is great. It's been there forever. Everything's pretty much indoors. You're gonna have a few people outside, but you know, there's probably music at times, I would imagine, from that, just from general stuff. But the weddings, it's tricky. I mean, it's gonna be some noise. And they may only be through the summer, but that's when everybody wants to be outside too. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, and even if you look at number 8, I mean, I had that as a question mark too, because it's supposed, you're not involved uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment, or conditions of operation that will cause unreasonable production of traffic, noise, smoke, and so on and so forth. So certainly there's concern about traffic and there's concern about noise, and the activities proposed are going to create both. So.
Can you consider making it a smaller number so it doesn't end up being I mean, what number of people would you, with 30 parking spaces, consider? Just like you to think about some of the other options and how we could make this work without.
I agree with you, Robert, though the parking is really an issue. 30 spaces for that many people.
We don't have to have that.
No. And that's what, yes, it's something along the lines of maybe changing that scenario around. I mean, that's what that stood out to me the most is the parking situation, and also the lights in and out. You know, that's another issue too. So
there's, you know, we are more than willing to work with anything, any recommendations, and limit the size and the direction of, you know, basically if we end any functions before dark, I mean.
An event center for 10 people is the same as an event center for 150 people. I know I'm out of turn. An event center is an event center. It is against the CUP code, and I'm sorry for speaking out of turn.
I'd like to say one
You
more
guys
thing.
are gonna have
You
to.
approve this,
Yeah.
you're
Like,
opening up the
this
city of
cannot be
McCall to a
done.
class action lawsuit.
I'm sorry, but if you're gonna
That's-
speak outside of the public
Yeah.
hearing, you have to exit the room. It's just the rules.
Thanks.
Last time.
what do you think?
It's a tricky one.
Yeah. I wonder if it should be tabled for further study.
We would appreciate that.
Let's see.
Is there something specific that we are wanting to study further?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Well, well, just a question maybe for our attorney is that I, for one, don't feel like I'm qualified to make suggestions on what size would be good or not good. And it's not our place right now, I don't think. You know, we could vote and make a recommendation one way or the other to the city council. And If we, let's say we voted against it or recommending against it, is there a caveat or something that could be added to, with the recommendation that goes to city council, that should they differ with our opinion, that we suggest maybe they ask the applicant to revise their plan and be very specific? Is that something that's an option?
Well, I mean, maybe I don't understand the question, but typically the process is if this is denied, it can be appealed to the city council. And I don't want to go too much further into that process. What I would suggest is that the commission base its determination or upon the assumption that, this is your final decision on this. And administratively, it can go up and down. That's true. But I think, what's incumbent upon us is to get it right this time. And so, if the commission, if we're trending towards denial, what I would suggest is, and staff's been taking notes, is that you table the issue with the instruction that staff prepare findings and conclusions consistent with your deliberations. In the alternative, if you're unsure, I suggest additional deliberation, or make it clear to staff and the applicant what questions you have and what additional information you'll need to evaluate whether this conditional use permit application meets the criteria set out in the ordinances. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the gist of what I was asking, but I know at least several steps we could take. I don't know, what do you guys think about a vote, or do you want to table it? Those are our options, I guess, at this point.
Well, I mean, I don't know about, to table it, is what other new facts are we gonna get?
That would be my question as well. We need specific ask,
Right.
If there's gonna be a change on the application.
otherwise.
You mean ask some more different questions and get answers on that? Is that what you're
Well, yeah.
doing?
If we're going to table it,
Okay.
we need to have a reason to table it. What additional information?
Yeah.
do we need?
Okay.
I mean, does any of the commissioners have additional questions that would warrant tabling it to get them answered?
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I would say that there's two reasons to table this, if you are going to table it. And those two reasons are, one, to allow staff time to prepare findings and conclusions consistent with your deliberations. And what that would be is, right now the findings and conclusions are in support of passage. And so, that would be essentially the instruction, is that we prepare findings and conclusions that are consistent with denial, based upon the deliberations that have occurred here tonight. Brian would probably have some clarifying questions for you to make sure that he's headed down the right path before we did that. And then the second reason would be, and I think you're on this, but I just want to put a fine point on it, is, maybe there's some question you have, factual question you have, that you feel like has not been put into the record and is not in the applicant's materials that have been submitted or the staff's materials. If that's the case, let's identify what that is and then request, that for a continued hearing, information on that specific point and only that specific point be brought back to the commission at a later date.
Okay.
So where I'm sitting with this, if the neighborhood's presentation of how the event center would play out is how it would actually play out, I want to say absolutely not. If the applicant's proposal of how the event center plays out, it's not really an event center, it's this ancillary opportunity for renters at this, Airbnb or the bed and breakfast to use this facility like, that seems a lot more supportable to me. So I'm having a hard time because I don't know which one is closer to the truth.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was suggesting, if 3, 12, and 8 are not being met, then we are supposed to make a vote. And my understanding of it is deny, recommend denial. So I guess those other, I mean, you make a really good point. Then it was whatever happens with council. Let's say it's denied, then the applicant can come back with a different proposal if they so choose. So I don't know. What do you think?
Bill, if we make a motion, just assuming something's made on a denial at this point, do we reference the specific items of the conditional use items that we feel that it is not, satisfying?
Yeah, so my recommendation would be if the board feels like we're trending towards denial of the application, I think that you should, go around the room and get everybody's basically their opinion on which of the criteria are not being met and how, so that Brian can then prepare findings and conclusions. And so then you would table the matter and continue the hearing until your next meeting, when you can take it back up. Or I suppose the hearing's closed, so you could just continue the matter for the next meeting so that you can consider findings and conclusions consistent with your deliberations. Did I answer that clearly enough for you, or do you still have questions?
Yeah, I think so. It's something we need to still roll into a following meeting either way.
Everyone knows the answer to this. The attorney's
Sure.
trying to give you a way out to kick the can and let them make the decision. Please don't do that. Treat it like it was your home. Thank you.
Well, I have to respectfully disagree with what that guy had to say. You need to, if you're going to vote on something, it needs to be findings and conclusions that are ultimately supportable in court. And so just flat out denying it right now would be inadvisable.
All right.
I'm leaving, I'm on my way out. It is evident that you people don't even seem to understand what your job is. You've been given all the information.
Mr. Chairman, I think if you continue to have outbursts like this, you should contact the police department.
I'm on my way out. All the information you've been given.
Sure. You just heard him. You understood what he just said.
This isn't advancing your cause, sir.
Time to
I
go
don't
through.
think you even understand what your job here is to do. And the information you've been given, have you
Please.
given enough information
Good night.
to conclude a decision tonight?
Out.
I'm on my way out. Again, you're opening the city up for a class action
Out.
lawsuit.
I disagree with that legal analysis as well. Okay. So anyway, like I said, if you're trending towards denial of the application, you'd want to express what that basis is, and then your vote tonight would be to table the matter and direct staff to prepare findings and conclusions consistent with your deliberations. And Brian may have some questions about specific points before you close that down.
All right, I think at this point, we'll go with each commissioner and see what their thoughts, if they look at the points as far as the conditions that's required to be approved to get a conditional use permit, that you can't violate any one of these. Scott, you pretty much already had.
Yeah, I have questions with 3. I don't feel that those are being met adequately. 3, 8, specifically in 8, the noise and the traffic. And then number 12, I do think that there will be a negative economic impact on or could be, the way the application is worded on the neighborhood and the surrounding community. So those are the 3 that stick out to me as not being met.
Tony, your thoughts? as far as I.
Are you advocating tabling the?
Well, it's we're looking at,
Okay.
we're gonna give the staff, if we're looking that way, just your thoughts, if you
Okay.
agree with those or what your thoughts are.
I do agree with those.
I agree with those and would add 11 specifically parking areas.
I thought about that too, but
Yeah, I've thought about parking. I mean, they do have the space, they just don't have it in the plan.
right.
So I guess it kind of,
I think
that'd be identified why 11 because.
We all know what the
it's not in
street
plan.
looks like. It's a narrow, kind of a dangerous street, especially at night, and there are little children there. I mean, there's no question about the parking and the vehicle situation is probably not as good as it could be. Maybe some tweaking there would be something that they ought to look at, but.
Well, would that be number 7? Then be served adequately by essential public facilities, including highways, streets?
Yeah.
You don't feel that it would have adequate service?
Yeah, that would be closer to number 7.
And you could also throw in number 4, not detrimental to the health, safety, et cetera.
Yeah, 7 probably is more of the street-wise,
Yeah.
safety,
Well, yeah, then you got
can do
water,
that.
sewer and that kind of thing in there.
but it's more of
Yeah.
the, includes the highways and streets. If you feel
Yeah.
that street and that intersection is an issue. Because there is discussion of that being come the highway, so that would make it even
Yeah.
more busy. All right, Christine, any thoughts from you as far as the items? Or any thoughts?
I'm on board with all of the same ones, 3, 8, potentially 12 as being problematic.
All right, Ryan?
Yep, I agree with everybody else's comments, 3, 8, 12, and potentially 7, as Tony has mentioned.
All right, well, at this point, I think had the discussion. I believe we would need a motion to table this or till the next meeting to first. Do we need a motion to instruct staff for the next meeting?
Bill, do you have specific words that could help?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I think it'd be appropriate to give Brian just a few moments to ask any questions if he has any.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only one that I need some clarification on is regarding number 7. Is that saying the street design is inadequate to serve the facility? I'm hesitant to include things like that, as that may hinder. If we're going to take that policy citywide, it is going to hinder the ability to do anything.
Okay.
So commissioners, any comment on that?
That's fine. I think it was just the one thing that kind of identified when he had one concern he had on the street.
So the language I would recommend then is that the motion would be to table CUP 21-04 and DR 21-28 and direct staff to prepare findings and conclusions consistent with the Board of Commissioners deliberations. And so moved is an acceptable follow-up.
Do we have we have a motion and we have a second.
I have a second.
All right, and I think we'll do a roll call vote on this one, Brian.
Okay. Commissioner Rock,
Aye.
Commissioner Moss,
Aye.
Commissioner Tuttle,
Aye.
Commissioner Nemec,
Yes.
Commissioner Kinzer,
Yes.
Chairman Lyons.
Yes. All right. I'm gonna go back and figure where the heck we are. I guess that's everything on the agenda as far as new business. Do we have looks like we have a sign for Toby's place? Right.
One thing left.
I guess we'll be
And then he has
discussion with
the
staff on
2022 meeting.
any questions with
We have
staff.
2022.
I can ask, so
Well, no, it's
Yeah.
pretty much done, but I mean.
I remember the sign thing, but yeah, okay.
I don't know if I'm seeing this.
I'm just having a hard time hearing you.
No, I just think if you have questions on everything moving forward, you can talk with Ryan.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to ask these questions.
Here, if you wanted to shoot me.
We can make so many.
So it'll come back in front of us with the conditions we've discussed, but not with staff.
Yeah, I just, thank you for understanding and at least.
Thank you. Okay,
Chairman Lyons,
yes.
before we get into the signs, I think we are all mentally exhausted and tired, and we should just open the public hearing for DR 2111.
Oop, I forgot about that
Continue
one.
to next month. when the application is due.
Yeah, I forgot that we still had that one hanging out. Okay. So,
That's the school thing, isn't it?
no, we've got the one on Chris Lane that was postponed
Oh, yeah,
because,
yeah,
or
okay.
moved up, but then he was already gone because it took too long on the design.
We need to open the public hearing and then make a motion to,
So we'll make a motion to reopen well, we never closed the public hearing. Technically. We closed the public comments on those items, but I don't believe we closed the public hearing. Right?
I did not keep track of minutes enough in this, but if you believe it is still open, then just vote to continue it.
Well, I mean, we closed.
2111? Yes, DR 2111.
Yeah, DR 21. We were gonna bring that up at the end.
So can I just move to
We
continue?
did was move it to the end, so you still have yet to open the public hearing.
So
for that item.
Mr. Chairman, my suggestion under the circumstances would be to open the public hearing and then continue it till your next meeting. That way we don't have to renotice a new public hearing.
Oh, okay. All right, sounds good. Do we need a motion to open the public hearing?
I think you can just take.
That's okay, we're gonna reopen the public hearing.
Yeah,
And now,
yeah, I'll make a motion that we continue DR 2111 to January 4th meeting.
I second.
a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm sure Tony's aye, so, okay, that will be carried to next month's meeting.
So signs.
Now we will close the public hearing. No,
No,
no, close, okay.
Yeah.
then
Doesn't
continue.
exist.
Brian, did you get us, pardon me, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Brian, did we have sufficient numbers on that last vote?
I believe so. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's hard for me to tell too. That's
We
why
have
I'm
2
asking.
commissioners online and there's 3 in the room.
Okay. And everybody voted in favor?
Everybody
Yes.
voted in favor.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right,
Okay, so signs.
signs.
Kobe's Place, got a new sign. There's this one. There's no new lighting proposed. It's directly mounted on the surface of the building. It's not on any stands or anything like that. And they also got the rest of the signage on the property entitled through the sign application. All of the existing signage, the freestanding sign in the front, some of the directional signs directing people into the church office, into the main thrift shop building. And then some of the signage on the building. So now they have full entitled signage on the property that they'll be able to carry with the property wherever it goes in the future. And that's always a relief to me, because then there's stuff on the record. If you have any questions, I can answer questions, but otherwise it meets code in every single way.
Good, looks good.
And then the last item is just the 2022 calendar and application deadline schedule. Don't know.
We're gonna have a July 5th meeting?
Yeah, I was just thinking of that. Brian, I don't know if there's any motions or revisions or anything like that. Thoughts?
Kind of hard to miss one in the middle of the summer because there's a lot of applicants, but,
Yeah,
We could move it to the Thursday. That would be lovely.
well, then you got probably council.
Well,
What's the 5th? The 5th is on a.
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay.
So the 4th, you're gonna be, the holiday, the identified holiday would be the 4th. You wouldn't get the 4th and the 5th, so it's not technically a holiday.
right.
you could do, you'd want to do it earlier rather
The
than later.
4th's on a
right?
Monday then.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right, okay.
What?
Wouldn't you want to do it earlier than later if you were going to do a different date?
Oh, you mean maybe like the week before?
Like the first Friday, Thursday,
Or the Tuesday before that, so you'd have 2 in June?
yeah, we could do, I think we've done that
Or the
before.
week after? Or,
Be the 28th of
yeah, we're
June.
bumping our whole week.
If you make it the week after, then notices maybe get messed up.
Oh, Michelle is here.
Commissioners?
I don't know.
Michelle, your headset is not mic'd, so your room microphone.
There you
Let me do that. All right. It's been so long, I forgot I could actually talk. But yeah, I just wanted to let the commission know, typically when the meeting falls right after a holiday, we tend to bump it a week out, or a week after. So that's kind of our normal protocol. It makes it a little bit short for the next turnaround for staff, but we, you know, we work towards trying to still meet those deadlines when possible.
Yeah.
I think it'd be better after.
So that would put it, what, like the 12th?
11th.
11th?
Wait.
No, 12th.
12.
Yeah, I think that. You just
Do
have,
we need to have them make any kind of motion to revise the calendar, Michelle or Bill?
You have to do that. No, I think you do.
So
I
as
couldn't
long
tell you.
as the commission agrees, I mean, generally, this is just something we post on our website, and we send out all the meeting requests to the commission. But I don't know, Bill, if it actually requires a motion or not.
Well, we've got everyone here. Belt and suspenders. I suggest the motion and vote.
Okay.
okay, before we do that, we need to also change the application deadline a week, right? Or do you want to leave it the same?
That's a good
If we
question.
leave it the same, then that gives staff the ability to still maintain their normal prep schedule.
Gonna take the 4th off and not have to cram.
Just fine with me. I'll entertain a motion.
Let's see.
Go for it, Tony.
I make a motion that we change the date for the July meeting to the 12th, from the 5th to the 12th. And what was the other part of that?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's my motion.
Second?
A motion to, first and a second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll second that.
I move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
I don't know how you guys do this on every, I mean, I know this was probably exceptionally horrible.
You said this was going to kind of be a fun deal or
I
what
know,
happened?
and I was thinking, it could be like recorded. Of like, I mean, I get it's recorded up here,
Yeah.
but like having the guy with the phone, with the phone audio, it's like.
There's